So I thought it'd be a really good idea to do a series of videos on the Buddha's teaching on condition-dependent origination, Paticca-Samuppada, 12 links of condition-dependent origination, his description of the way suffering arises fundamentally out of ignorance of the true nature of reality. It's a very deep and profound topic. Normally we have Wednesday evening meetings at the House of Inner Tranquillity, and I'll talk about some aspect of the Buddha's teaching for half an hour or so, but this subject has so many intricacies that I felt it would be really helpful to contemplate condition-dependent origination over a whole series, an open-ended series of videos, and just try to bring out as much detail as I can for you. Really, condition-dependent origination is the Buddha's enlightenment. He did say that whoever sees me sees condition-dependent origination. Whoever sees condition-dependent origination sees me. So his awakeness, for want of a better word, his waking up to reality, he described in the terms of the 12 links of condition-dependent origination, how suffering comes out of ignorance and craving for life to be different. So I'm primarily aiming these videos for the benefit of current members of the House of Inner Tranquillity, people who are under instruction and practicing Buddhist insight meditation, Vipassana meditation at the centre. I feel though that these are sublime and fundamental truths of how life works, so potentially they are of benefit to anyone who is interested in becoming more mindful and understanding and wanting to understand how it is that they create their suffering. So this is the actual 12 links of condition-dependent origination. I'll bring it up on the screen now for you. The design was created by the Venerable Kapilawado Bhikkhu in the 1960s. The Venerable Kapilawado Bhikkhu was my teacher's teacher. So my teacher was Alan James, and he in turn was taught by the Venerable Kapilawado Bhikkhu, who in turn was trained in Thailand, in Buddhist meditation. And he created this very handy and very unique design of condition-dependent origination, which contains absolutely everything you need to know. It's just the most amazing, concentrated, precise rendering of the Buddha's entire teaching. You get the law of action and results, you get rebirth on the conventional level, and at the ultimate level you get an explanation of the fundamental laws and processes that govern the arising of conscious experience. So it is both the conventional teaching and the teaching of ultimates, and this particular design is just a most wonderful rendering. So a few things that I need to try to put across to try and contextualize Paticca-Samuppada for you, and then maybe in a subsequent video we can begin to go through all the individual links and start putting it all together. But it's really helpful to understand the context of this. So it's helpful just to recap who the Buddha was, and that helps to contextualize this. So Siddhartha Gautama, who was to become the Buddha, leaves his privileged life of wealth and power to seek spiritual understanding based on his recognition of the true nature of life, that is, that there is old age, disease and death, that suffering is a fundamental part of life that we all have to deal with, and his fundamental belief that it must be possible to bring suffering to an end. So that became his cause, that became the basis of his spiritual search, to find the cessation of suffering anxiety, depression, loneliness, the full gamut of human ills. He felt that there had to be a solution to that. So he went on a spiritual journey. As we know, he developed what are called the jhanas, deep states of concentration, absorption, and experienced the most incredible states of bliss through that. In the end, he recognizes that no matter how far he goes in that, it doesn't bring about the cessation of suffering. So he, in the end, abandons the pursuit of what we might call religious experience as a way to realize the cessation of suffering. He then goes into a period of 6 years of practicing austerities, where he learns to put up with less and less comfort and more discomfort in various ways, to the point where it was said he was living on a grain of rice a day, which of course is not sustainable. I think the belief at the time, and there's probably still people that believe this, that you could realize enlightenment, the cessation of suffering, through austerities where you essentially are burning off your bad karma. But he reaches the point where he's living on a grain of rice a day, and he recognizes the futility of that doesn't work either. So what he's done is he's lived a life of luxury and wealth and power. That doesn't lead to the cessation of suffering. He's tried to will into existence deeper and deeper states of bliss and religious experience. That doesn't bring about the cessation of suffering, and then he has gone to the absolute maximum in willing himself to put up with the least he can possibly have, to practice austerities. None of it works, and it's his great realization, what led to his enlightenment and his realization of the way life really is, was the recognition that everything he was trying to do to make the cessation of suffering happen, to make enlightenment happen, was futile. That no willing, no volitional activity brought about the cessation of suffering. And that's really important when we come to the recognition of what Paticca-Samuppada is. So he reaches a point where he realizes the futility of all his efforts to make something happen. And that's really critical to understand about the Buddha's teaching, because what he does next is just genius. What so few people recognize, he stopped trying. He stopped trying to make something happening. He stopped trying to will enlightenment into existence, either through something that he did or through abstinence. What he did instead was he used what are called the 4 fine material jhanas, states of absorption, to clarify and cleanse his mind of all defilements. He came out of the 4th jhana with a mind which was deeply cleansed, pure and focused, and then he just watched. And this is I hope I'm making it clear that this is absolutely vital to understand. He just watched. He wasn't trying to manipulate, he wasn't trying to change, he was just letting conscious experience unfold, and he just took proper mindful account of what was taking place. And just through that process, just through that observation of experience, he was able to observe and appreciate how conscious experience arises due to conditions, moment by moment. And in that, he came to see that all suffering arises out of a passionate desire for life to be different than it is, which itself is based in a fundamental ignorance of the true nature of reality. And in observing, simply observing the true nature of reality without trying to change it, there was the most profound realization of the true nature of reality. So, and Paticca-Samuppada is his description of what he saw. So that's why he says, whoever sees me sees condition-dependent origination. Whoever sees condition-dependent origination sees me. So that's such a vital thing for anyone who's practicing Buddhist insight meditation, vipassana, to understand. That the objective of the exercise is not to change reality. It is not to pursue religious experience. It is not the attempt to burn off one's bad karma, because it doesn't work. What Paticca-Samuppada shows us is that every willful action, irrespective of whether it's born of extreme selfishness or whether it's born of deep altruism, it will always produce a result. And there always has to be a mind and body which experiences that result. So there is this endless process of conscious experience, and what is the forerunner of that conscious experience is always the willful attempt to change reality, what prompts the need for a result. So as we look at Paticca-Samuppada, all this becomes really quite evident. So with his discovery of Paticca-Samuppada, the Buddha understood the true nature of reality, which he summed up in the Four Noble Truths. And the Four Noble Truths are that life is suffering, and that the attempt to resolve the problem of suffering by actions that you perform only perpetuates more suffering. So you can't get off this round of this loop, endless loop, what we call samsara, through any action that you perform. What you have to do is to come off the wheel of samsara, to end suffering, is to develop what he called the Noble Eightfold Path. Getting your views straight, getting your intentions right, developing right actions, right speech, right livelihood, developing right effort, right mindfulness, and right concentration. The point being not that we're going to try to create some kind of otherness or try to get into some specific experience or state of consciousness, but through developing the path, you develop the capacity for close, concentrated, mindful observation of conscious experience as it's unfolding, moment by moment, and it is through that investigation that one comes to an understanding of reality for oneself. And what is that understanding of reality that one comes to? It's the 12 links of condition-dependent origination, seeing directly how it is that all these links unfold step by step and lead to inevitable suffering and rebirth on the wheel of suffering. And that through properly understanding, and I do state it is an understanding, it's not a state of experience, a particular experience. It is understanding this whole complex of conditioned and conditioning states. And we'll get into all of this in subsequent videos, but it is through that understanding what is actually going on that the tendency to crave for life to be different is transcended. It's seen through. The folly of craving for life to be different than it is seen completely, and so that leads to non-grasping, non-attachment, and a turning away from the conditioned and conditioning universe and the realization of nibbana, which is the complete transcendence of the wheel of Paticca-Samuppada. God, I think that might have just been one sentence. I hope you're able to follow all that. So that's what true meditation is. True meditation is not pursuing absorption. That's samatha, and you can use samatha meditation in conjunction with vipassana, but it's vipassana meditation that does the job of eliminating the craving and the attachment to the world, which perpetuates suffering. So it is complex. There's a lot to look at and go through, but I thought the best thing to do was to just begin by showing you Kapi's design. Kapi is the affectionate name for the Venerable Kapilawada Bhikkhu. To show you this, just to get you looking at it, I will put a link to our to a PDF of this design so you can download it. Apologies to anybody who's watching this on a phone. Perhaps the design won't show up particularly well, but maybe you can look at it on a computer sometime later. So I think what I'll do is I'll leave it here for this particular episode. Can you call this an episode? Probably not. And then we will start with the next one of actually going through all the 12 links and just see how we get on. Alright, so we'll leave it there for now.